Let's welcome in Chris Broussard. You can hear him on The Odd Couple, which, of course, gets underway at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, right here on Fox Sports Radio. I want to get to hoops in a second, but your reaction to Dak. I heard you guys reacting to Dak last night. I don't get it from the Cowboys. He couldn't have gotten a better deal as a free agent. They could have let him play the market. Everybody's scared of like, whoa, you gave him the second biggest deal in the history of the sport. You don't think that would have been okay in the open market?
Well, here's my problem with the Cowboys. I thought they should have signed him, if not 2 years ago, then last year, and we know it would have been less money. If he was the guy you wanted, and apparently he was, then you should have signed him. You have to know, you and I know this. We all know that the market only keeps going up and up and up. And it doesn't matter if you're the best guy. We know Dak's not the best quarterback. We know he's not better than Deshaun Watson, but he got more money. So I just thought the Cowboys miscalculated that. Now, a lot of people are spinning it, which does make some sense that, hey, they got all that money off the cap for this year. It's only worth $22 million as far as a cap hit for Dak, so they can have some room to get other guys, which I get. That makes sense. But I do think, Doug, he probably would have gotten this on the open market. Not saying he's a $40 million quarterback, but the figures just keep going up and up and up. And I think they were in a position where they pretty much had to sign him because they've built their team to win now. Whether we think it's good enough to win now or not, it's built to win now because of their money they've spent. And so you don't want to start all over with a new quarterback. So I kind of think Dak just was a much better poker player than Jerry Jones.
I think that's fair. All right, let's get to to some NBA stuff. Meyers Leonard's an idiot. I didn't need that to tell me. But he's also out for the year. Like, what do you do with Meyers Leonard?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I don't know if you know Meyers, and I haven't had a ton of interaction with him, but he's been, the little bit of interaction I have, I've liked him, but this is obviously a bad situation, and look, there'll be some type of discipline. I don't think it'll end his career. But, he's going to get this, like you said, he's out for the year anyway. But it's just unfortunate because, like I said, I thought he, my interactions with him, he's been a solid guy.
No, I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he's one of those guys. I don't know if he knows what the word truly means. That doesn't excuse it, but I just feel like, it's like here's a guy who's a grown man who makes a ton of money playing NBA basketball, and he actually has a gaming sponsor, which, by the way, was already canceled on him.
Right.
But kind of shows you, it's not like you're dealing with a dude who's wearing a 3-piece suit and is all buttoned up. Like he just
right. Well, one thing I will say, Doug, let this be a lesson to people because a lot of times when we're talking about race, look, let's face it, most of the focus is on black and white, right? When we talk about racism in this country, and we understand that because of the history, but racism is not just or not being racist, I should say, is not just avoiding saying things or mistreating black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it goes for all people, and particularly all people of color or all minorities, in this case, the Jewish population. So I just think sometimes too many people, like, they don't transfer the lessons they supposedly learned from not mistreating black people to other people. I think we've seen that with Native Americans, and the whole thing about the names, the names of these teams. For the longest, a lot of people just didn't understand it. I'm like, hold on, if the Washington football team, we know what their name was before, if that had been a racial slur against African Americans, we would never let that stand. Why couldn't we understand that with Native Americans? So I just think maybe that's a lesson people can learn from this. Obviously Meyers, you saw him with the Black Lives Matter shirt on and all of that. But that goes for all people, right? You don't treat anybody like that. So I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't know why in the world he would do this, but he'll get his discipline and rightfully so, and I think he'll learn from it and he'll be able to move on.
Mickey Aronson, by the way, is his owner. Just, I don't know, Jewish.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
right.
Interesting. What do you think of the Nets reportedly getting Andre Drummond to go along with Blake Griffin?
Yeah, it's interesting. Will they continue to try to do that? Look, Blake doesn't answer their problems. I think it was the best move for him because with those three superstars drawing all that attention, he's going to get a ton of open looks. He's not expected to come in and be like this great impact player where he would if he had gone to Miami or Portland. And I think he'll be able to live up to expectations, kind of like a Dwight Howard last year with the Lakers. But Drummond, I do think, would help them. Now, granted, he can, there's problems with him defensively as well. But he does fit a need in terms of rebounding. He is, at this point, a better finisher than Griffin. Griffin doesn't, I don't think Griffin is he just doesn't have the burst. And forget the burst he used to have. He doesn't have much burst at all as far as getting up in the air. Drummond wouldn't have those issues. I think Drummond would be a better player for them at this point than Blake Griffin. And I think if they get both of them, then Blake, it'll be interesting to see what his minutes look like. Because some of these other guys, Joe Harris, obviously, you want him on the floor because of his shooting. Bruce Brown, his hustle. Obviously, he's been finishing well, even though he's a small guy. But his hustle, defensively, he's better than some of these other guys will be. Jeff Green obviously brings a little more defense than the Blake Griffin. So if they bring in Andre Drummond, it'll be interesting to me to see what Blake's minutes look like.
What do you think the Lakers are going to do?
I think they're going to go for Drummond. And I kind of feel like that's where he'll go because they're the team that, they went away from the big guys inside with Dwight and JaVale McGee and went finesse with Marc Gasol. And now they're kind of like, well, we might need to go back. We need something inside. And I think Drummond could do that for him. So I think that looks like the best fit for him to me.
Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. I know it's not sexy or cool, but the Clippers are interesting, right? Like they're sitting there kind of laying in wait. They too need an addition. What are your thoughts on the Clippers as they're currently comprised? I like the Clippers, and I liked them last year. I thought they'd win it last year, but their clutch play bothers me. I know it's regular season, but Kawhi is interesting because when he came to the Clippers, we all felt like he was clutch, right? He had been great in Toronto, but now you're starting to see some of the warts. He's still obviously a tremendous player, but he struggled in the clutch this year and even last year to some degree, especially against Denver in the playoffs. And I just wonder, does he not like the pressure of being expected to carry your team? Remember, the two championships he has, we know in San Antonio, he wasn't the main guy by any stretch of the imagination. He averaged 12 points that year. Even though he was finals MVP, it was the big three that they had. And then in Toronto, he was a mercenary. Nothing was expected. They weren't expected to win a championship. Kyle Lowry was the leader of that team. And they had other guys, Van Vliet, Serge Ibaka, and he could just be a great player. Now he's being called on to be a little more of a leader, to set more of a tone, and the expectations are firmly on his shoulders. So it's interesting to watch how he handles all of that. I feel like, Doug, and I think you'll appreciate this, they need a point guard. At the end of the games, obviously they put the ball in the hands of Kawhi or Paul George, which is fine, but it shows you, look, just because you're a small forward type guy can bring the ball up the court and handle the basketball and is a decent passer, it doesn't mean he's prepared to run the offense or make plays for everybody like a LeBron James, because that's the model that they're kind of following. I think they could, Kyle Lowry, you keep hearing his name out there on the trade market. I don't know that they can get anything done with him. That's a big trade. But if they could get a guy like that, that's what the doctor ordered for the Clippers, in my view. Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio, coming to you live from the Farmers Insurance Fox Sports Radio studios. Chris Broussard, co-host of The Odd Couple, joining us here on the show. I'm actually getting ready to call the CAA championship game, and apparently the audio guy decided now is the very moment which I need to test out the sound system at this brand new arena in Atlantic Bank City. Like, yeah, it works. I appreciate it. The Celtics are kind of a mess, aren't they? Like, this thing is spiraled. And is Brad Stevens partly accountable? Yeah, but it was supposed to be, Jamal Brown and
Jaylen and Tatum.
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum supposed to be their team, and now it's we don't have Marcus Smart. Is there something else amiss there?
Well, one thing, and you know this, Doug, and I look. Let me preface this by saying I do think Brad Stevens is a good coach. I mean, I don't think anybody I don't think you know basketball if you say he's not a good coach. He is a good coach. But there are coaches that when you don't have a lot of talent, they maximize it, right? They overcoach and they get those guys to win every single game that they could possibly win. But then you give them a lot of talent, superstars or stars, and they maybe it's because they're overcoaching or whatever, they can't maximize. They can't even get it to play as well as it should. And that's the question on Brad Stevens. And I know Kyrie's got his issues, but he couldn't handle Kyrie Irving. And I'm not saying it was all Brad, but still, it didn't work out. Now, you would think with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown being, homegrown products, so to speak, that Brad would be able to handle them. And I'm not saying he can't, but I'm just watching. Is Brad a guy that can handle the Mercedes? He can handle the Honda Civics, but can he handle the Mercedes-Benz? And that's the question I'm looking to see with Brad. Because, at Butler, he wasn't getting the blue chippers who have all the ego, and he's got to maneuver that. And then at Boston, he didn't have guys like that for a while, and now he does, and things have gone awry. So, and again, it's not all him. I think Danny Ainge, could have made some better moves. We know they didn't get anything for Gordon Hayward. Hayward was important to them because he was a ball mover. And even though he may not have been worth the $130 million, he was a ball mover who was skilled, and that was important for that team. Kemba Walker's injury, the knee, he's not the same player he was even last year. That's been an issue. And then the heart and soul of that team is Marcus Smart. What they really need is for one of their best young players, Jaylen or Tatum, to become the leader. And, that could probably help them solve this thing. Look, I think they'll get it together to the point where they'll probably be a top 4 seed, probably the 4th seed in the East, which they are right now. But I would be shocked if they won the East. And that was not something I would have said at the start of the season.
Is Joel Embiid the best player in the league?
No, I'm a firm believer that you don't win that mythical title in the regular season. But he's the MVP right now. He is the MVP right now. I have him ahead of LeBron and James Harden. And I know some voters may hold what happened in Houston against him. But that dude, and I know you can appreciate it as a point guard, he is phenomenal as a point guard, I think. And so he's playing terrifically. But, yeah, I got Embiid as the MVP right now. Does it on both ends. Mid-range game has become deadly. Can hit the three, hits free throws. I'm an old school guy. I probably want to see him in the post even a little more than he is now. But he is down there. For today's game, I guess, it's about all you can get. He's down there more than ever. He's down there more than anybody else in the league. So I just think it is another advantage they could exploit. But, hey, he's playing great basketball, and, yeah, I got him as the MVP right now.
I agree. I mean, part of it is the way the NBA is officiated. It's hard to be down there. It's a wrestling match, but he's amazing. Chris, can't wait to hear you on The Odd Couple tonight. Thanks for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it.
All right, Doug.